is an easy painting for beginners. It is fun and a great way to paint trees and buildings. Very super easy and basic. So if you haven't painted in a very, very long time, this is a good one to start with. And this is a great one for the seasons. I know that you're going to like it. The first thing that I'm going to do is flip over my canvas, and I'm going to poke a hole in the plastic, bring it across, and then bring it down. This is the easiest way to open these canvases so you don't poke a hole and destroy and ruin your canvas. I am using a stretched canvas over a wood frame. It has already been pre-gessoed, so therefore I don't have to worry or do anything. I can just start painting as is. I am going to need a paper plate to put the paint on. I find the paper plates tend to be the easiest to use because at the end of the painting you can just throw them away. I'm also going to need a paper towel so that way I can clean and wipe off my brushes. I am going to need some water so I can clean my brushes, and I'm also going to need my hair dryer. Some of the brushes that I might use, which is a brush set that I recommend pretty much everybody have, is a big square, a fan brush, and my little Filbert Bright. Basically all you need is a small brush, a medium brush, and a big brush. So don't stress out if you don't have exactly the brushes I have, because the painting can still work just fine. So I'm going to first work on the sky. Now it depends on how you would like your painting to be on the wall, if you would like a horizontal painting or a vertical painting. I am choosing today to make my painting vertical. So on my palette, I am going to add blue and white together and create a light blue. This is going to be the background of where the sky is. Now every time I paint a painting, I always like to have a different type of a sky. So if you want to, go ahead and add clouds. But for today's painting, on my painting, I am choosing not to have any clouds. So I'm just going to have a nice, calm, early winter, fall type of day. So when I have a nice blue color that I like and it is thoroughly mixed, I'm going to add it to my canvas. I'm going to come down and do about 2/3 the painting in blue. Right now I'm just going to kind of add the paint on, and then I will come back and work. Make sure that I don't really have too many brush strokes on this one. I'm going to go ahead and take this moment to paint my sides. I prefer to paint the sides of my paintings. That's my style. You don't have to if you don't want to on yours. It also depends if you're painting a flat piece or if you're going to do, if you're painting, like this one has like an inch here on the sides. I find that painting the edges makes the painting feel more finished. And using these type of canvases, you don't have to buy extra pieces or anything or a frame to hang them on the wall. They're just good as is the way they are. So I find them to be a lot cheaper in the long run because I don't have to buy or build a frame. So I feel that's pretty good. I like what I got going. I've got a couple little streaks going horizontal with my brush strokes. Now I kind of did cake on the paint a little bit, so it is quite thick. I'm going to see if I can wipe some of that off so it will dry faster. And that should be about good. Now I have all this paint here, so instead of just dipping it straight into my water, I'm going to go ahead and wipe the excess off and then put it into my water to clean it. Keeps my water not getting so icky and gross and dirty all at once, so I don't have to constantly keep changing my water out. And I do like to bend some of that water out. I am using thick-bodied acrylic paints, and so I am choosing right now not to add a whole lot of water to my paint, so I will not be doing that. And so that's why I like to brush why I prefer to brush off the paint first and then like at the end when I kind of wipe it on the paper towel. I'm going to take a quick moment and go ahead and dry everything I got. This painting is going to be a layer effect where I add and add and add layers, and then it's going to all come together really nicely. So go ahead and dry your painting all the way as much as you can. Dry. I do have some areas there that I can see where it's shiny, and those areas where it is shiny, the paint is still wet. Now on my palette over here, I'm gonna add a little bit of purple. Now I don't need a whole lot. And then I'm going to add also a little bit of white onto my palette so I can make a lighter purple. Only take out as much paint as you're going to need. Right here, I've got my white and I got some purple. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to use my small square brush. You see it right there on the camera. Small and square. And I'm going to take the white and I'm going to mix a little bit of a light of purple. Now I'm not going to mix all my purple because I still am going to need some more later. Just a little bit. Once I get a nice purple that I like, then I'm going to start the buildings. Okay, so the reason why I chose a square is because I'm going to make my buildings very square. So I'm going to start about here, about 2/3 over. I'm going to make some buildings. I'm going to leave a couple gaps, and I'm also going to make sure that my buildings have varying heights in them as well. So I want some of them to be tall, and I want some of them to be big, fat, and wide, some skinny, but for the most part, they're basically vertical lines straight up and down. So for the most part, at the end of the day, I do want there to be some kind of a uniformity to my buildings. Now the reason why I'm choosing to do the lighter color first is because when things are farther away, they're kind of a little bit blurry. We don't see them in a lot of detail, and oftentimes they do, because of atmosphere and stuff like that, objects appear to be lighter. So if you have an opportunity, a good way to see this in life is if you were to see a bunch of rows of mountains, and you can see from the distance the mountains and the hills that are way far off behind, really behind everything, they're a lot lighter. But the closer that these hills and mountains get to you, the darker they come, and the more we are able to see little details like trees and stuff like that. So these buildings are going to be super far away. Right now, I'm just going to work on creating the basic shape of the building. And have fun with it. You know, let it be what it is. We're not creating a photographic image right now. We're making something fun and lighthearted and nice. And so don't stress you out if your buildings aren't super perfect. Like my lines here are not super perfect lines. They're a little wavy. I'm trying not to let them be wavy, but you know, it's just how it's happening. They got everyone has its own little character and unique look on its size, but for the most part, they're basically just straight up and down. And they're around the same thickness. It is okay to leave some strips of blue between your buildings, because then that would just be that there was sky that you could see between the two buildings. Now I am going to do a building on the side here. And this building is going to, oops, I have paper here, and all my paint over here is kind of wet and it was sticking. Okay, so I do always like to paint the side to keep the idea of it going on, the design. The more random you make these, the better they're going to be with their heights. The more it's going to, ooh, look at that. It's going to look really cool. Yeah, this is cool. I like it. So now what I'm going to do, I kind of on my palette ran out of this purple, but I still need a little bit more. I'm going to go ahead, and some of these buildings, I want to give them antennas. Little tiny doop. A couple of the buildings will have more, some will have less. But pretty much almost every every single building wants to have an antenna. At least one. And I'm just pretty much doing little dots, and I have my brush sideways so it's making long little dots. And the dots will be like, some can be long, some can be short, but for the most part, they're long little dots. That gives a little antennas and fun little look to it. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and wipe off that color from my brush. Now wash my brush off to the side, and I am going to go with another layer, but before I do that, I think a best call to make right now would be to go ahead and dry the purple that I already have right now. I'm going to do the same thing and add a second layer. I'm going to go ahead and clean my brush and then go with my dark purple and do the same thing. However, I'm going to take a moment and really think about where these buildings are going. I do not want to cover up all of the purple area, just some of it. I want to make sure that they're varied a lot. The more character you give these buildings, the awesomer this painting is going to look, and the more realistic these buildings will come across. I do kind of want to make sure that they all come to the same line at the bottom. Now I can follow the line of the length of the ones up above, but I'm going to choose not to. I mean, yeah, okay, like right here I can go a little bit higher with my paint because I have more of the purple. I kind of always want to keep purple, light purple above my buildings. So some of them are tall, some of them are short. Like this is a short one, even though that's a tall building. But I want to have diversity with size. Sometimes it's okay if they If the buildings are the same size, that can be okay. Sometimes that happens. I am kind of caking the paint on just a little bit. Now I am going to go ahead and make sure that they're all kind of covered to this line down here. Make sure that I've got these things, like this is purple. So I do want kind of the bottom area of all these buildings so that there's purple. And don't forget the side. Making sure. Okay, so I like what I have. That's pretty good. Now, also these they want to have antennas too. So I'm going to do with those little long line dots that I did, and I'm just going to add a couple, just a couple here and there. You know, some buildings are going to have more, some have less. Some have tall ones, some have short ones, some have little crookedy ones. But for the most part, pretty much every building's got some kind of an antenna on it. Make sure the one on the side has one. Now notice how I've stuck to the same color here. I'm using the dark purple for this. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead, clean off my brush. Before we get to the next stage, I'm gonna go ahead and use my hair dryer and dry everything I have. I recommend that you do the same thing. Going to do the grass. So I'm going to add some dark green onto my palette. Now if you want, when you make your grass, if you want to add yellow and like it's kind of dead grass, you could totally do that in different shades of green. I'm going to make mine really super simple and easy. I'm doing more of what's considered pop art. So I'm not going to do a whole lot of color mixing and adding details. Okay, so I have my fan brush. This is what my fan brush looks like. If you don't have one, you can still do this exact same technique with a liner brush. It'll be just fine. However, I find that using a fan brush to make grass tends to be the easiest way to do it. So right now you see all my bristles are nice and pretty and all together. I don't want that when I make grass. So I'm going to add it in my water, get them wet. And then I'm going to do this little flicky thing with my finger, play with it a little bit. And now look at what my brush has done. See how it's kind of separated a little bit here? We want to separate them so that they're kind of chunky together and they're not all pretty anymore. And I'm going to go in with my green and get some green in there. Make sure I'm not swooshing around too much because I still want there to be extra little like, I want them to make little individual marks. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to swoosh up. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. So I'm laying my brush down and swooshing upwards. I'm going to kind of cover some of the building just a little bit. But the trick is to have lots of different little lines. That's what I'm going for on purpose. Sometimes you gotta flick it and open it up a little bit. So that way, like they wanted the bristles, like want to clump together. I'm not gonna let them clump together. And right now, just swooshing. So setting it down and flicking up. Make sure I do the side so there's continuity. All right, and I really need to flick it every so often. They just want to stay together. And go ahead and flick up. So what I'm going to do is I'm doing a layering effect where I'm kind of, see how I'm doing it like as a line. Like I'm not swooping and going vertical with my swoops in the sense of I do here and then I do here and then I do here. No, I'm going to go right to left and create, like do these as lines. And by doing that, I'm going to get a tailored kind of look of that there's many in-depth, like some of the swooshes are overlapping and trying to cover up all the white area. I'm gonna have to wash my brush every so often. They just really clump up together, like they start kind of sticking together, and I want to have individual strands. So this is why you technically don't need a, look, I got it. See what happens after I washed my brush, look what happened. They separated. That's what I'm looking for every time that I make a stroke with this brush, to get those individual lines. So when you put it in your paint, don't like wipe it around and everything. Just dab lightly so that way your little brush marks will have indentations. You know, like they won't like want to stick together if they don't really touch each other. So I'm just going to build up this grass a little bit, trying to cover up all the white area. And I'm trying to make, that's great. Now I really see it coming. I fixed the brush and now I'm really seeing those strands. Some of these strands, you want them to be really thick, others not so thick. You want to be able to see brush strokes. Now, if you change your color and you try to do with a yellow or like a lighter green when you do this, you will see those, it'll pop way more. With this piece, I am trying not to do, I mean, it's not really the look that I'm trying to go for at this moment with this piece. I'm mostly just darker green and lighter green by the thickness of the paint that I'm adding. Okay, so kind of went over a couple of them there just to get those strands. I really want you to be able to really see indentations and marks. Okay, that looks good for now. I'm going to leave that. And then, you know what? Actually, I'm going to come down here with some green and make it come down a little bit deeper over here in this area, because my tree is going to be here. And I don't, yeah, I'm going to give it, it just makes it more stimulating to look at it, that there's many different depths to this area and this space. It gives a little bit more perspective. Gonna make it kind of a swoopy kind of a look over here where this grass kind of comes down a bit. So each of my swooshes are going up. So I'm starting down and I'm going up with the swoosh. Take your time, and when you feel that you're happy with what you got, then stop. I like this. This is cool. So I'm going to stop and let it be there. Now, before I do this tree, you know what? I don't need to wait. Since this is all wet, I just need to pay attention. I don't touch it. But right now, I'm going to go ahead and do the bark of the tree. Now, if I'm moving too fast, don't worry. You can just pause the video. Take your time and enjoy the process. Okay, so I'm adding some brown onto my palette. I'm going to choose to use my small square. Okay, so my paper towel is looking pretty icky and messy, so I'm going to go ahead and get myself a new one. Every so often, it's good to change out your paper towel. So now, this is the brush that I have currently. It's the small square brush. And I'm going to use this almost as a liner. So I'm going to do the basic outline of where I want the tree to be. Now, it's not going to look pretty at first. It's going to take a while. And we're really going to build up the tree as we go. So the tree trunk is going to be Mia. And it's going to come out and have branches. So when doing a tree, I like to do a tree as in the form of letter Y's. Notice what I'm doing here. I am creating the letter Y. Right here is a Y, right here, right here. So I got 1, 2, 3 Y's right there. I could do another one. So all my branches want to come up and out. Now the base of my tree wants to be thicker. The trunk of the tree wants to be thicker, and as it goes up, it gets skinnier and skinnier. So it's good to have a basic outline of where you're going, and then to come back and fix it and thicken it up. But first, when you're doing your basic outline of where your tree branches will be, make sure that they're skinny. I am really quickly going to turn my painting around for a few seconds just so I can get this edge going on. Make sure that I have it where they're looking nice around the sides, even though that most likely I will cover these with leaves. I still like to take a moment and do them right and do them good. Okay, so I have my main branches. I'm going to go ahead and make a couple of these coming off from where they are. So, got it here. And make sure that I have good paint. So then I'm going to continue and make these I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Ys that I had made. So now I'm going to turn these small Ys into smaller Ys. So there was a Y here, but then look, I added a line and now I have another line. So it's coming up and out. I'm going to do them on the bottom and I'm going to do them on the top. And I'm going to make sure that these ones are also very skinny as well. Because these are supposed to be the branches off of the branches, so they want to be really skinny. So far, I'm liking what I see. I'm pretty happy. One way, if you're not sure about your tree, is flip your painting and look at it from the other direction. And then sometimes you're like, oh, well, maybe that should be a little bit bigger. It should be shorter. And by flipping your painting and seeing it from different directions, it gives you a better perspective on how to look at it. Because oftentimes when we're painting, we have our canvas way up to our nose and we're not really seeing it like we're seeing it, but we're not really seeing it. You get what I'm saying? So sometimes, like, maybe if you have to walk across the room and like prop it up against the wall or something, walk across the room and check out your painting again, and you might see things that you're like, ooh, I need to fix that. So I'm going to go ahead, make this guy a little bit thicker on the bottom. Thicken up the trunk of the tree a little bit. Now, the more that you do trees, the better you're going to get at doing them, and then they're going to come out really cool. It does take a while, and it does take practice. When I was first learning and doing trees, my trees were really bad. They sucked. They were horrible. But, you know, I kept with it, and I kept practicing, and I did over and over again and tried many different paintings, and finally, I'm liking my trees now. I'm pretty happy with how I do them. And even to this day, after all these years, I still feel like I'm still learning and practicing. Like even right now, I'm putting forth a lot of effort here and really trying to make this tree look good. So don't get down on yourself if at this point you're like, my tree looks hideous. I mean, it's supposed to be winter, you know? Let the tree be a wintry tree. Okay, I'm liking what I have here so far. I hope you're happy with what you got as well. I'm going to go ahead and clean off my brush. And the next stage is to add all the cool leaves. Now before I do that, one thing that will make this process way easier and my painting will come out so much better is if I do dry my paint all the way, because right here I have wet paint And then of course this is wet paint and stuff. So if I go then applying my leaves, what's going to happen is it's going to mix with the other colors that are currently on the canvas that are wet. And I really don't want that because I really want those sharp colors to come through. So I recommend at this stage that you totally, completely dry your painting as much as you possibly can. You'll know that your paint is completely dry when you no longer see shiny areas. Now I do see some shiny areas, but for the most part, not a whole lot of them. So I'm going to continue. Now for the next step, I prefer to use my bright filbert brush. You see that? It's a little detail brush. It's not exactly round. It's not exactly square. It's a little bit of both. And it's a bright because it has a lot of bristles that are tightly compacted together. So that makes it a bright. So what I'm going to do is let's start with an orange. How about we do, well, yeah, let's start with orange. Now, if you don't have orange, the best way to make orange is with red and yellow mixed together. We'll make orange. With my little brush, I'm going to start adding little dabs here and there of where I want my leaves to be. So I'm going to try to not dab a whole lot over the brown areas. I'm mostly just going to kind of do the blue areas around the tree. And I'm kind of going to be mindful as to where I have placed, branches. Now I will be putting some dots over the tree. However, at this moment, I'm more about trying to fill up blue space than putting some that are overlapping the tree. I will fill that in at the end. The reason why I'm choosing to do that is so that way I have kind of an overall look that I'm trying to go for, and it'll help me stay uniformed with my decisions of where I want things. So I do want random chaos, but I don't want to cover up all of the brown. So if I wait to do that at the end, it'll be a little bit easier for me to have more control. Now I'm kind of doing dots. And each little dot has its own kind of personality and characteristics of how it is that it is dotty. It's good to turn your brush, move the brush in different directions, because some of these, they kind of turn out to be like ovals. Now, I've noticed when painting trees, if you use a smaller brush, it tends to, in the long run, look better, because I mean these leaves are pretty small compared to this huge tree. I'm trying to make a really tall tree here, and so if I use a big brush, what happens is my leaves are going to end up being really large, and which is cool, but not really something that I'm trying to go for on this tree. So I'm going to go ahead and also bring it down here to the white area. Now with here, I am going to be a little bit more liberal, because my plan is that I want to cover up all of the area that is white with the leaves. Because we didn't put grass over here, we could have, but I'm really trying to, I want to show a lot of leaves here. I am doing hyper-realism, which means that, yeah, I'm trying to make it like we can understand and know it's a tree in the city and that there's grass. So we do want to know that. But at the same time, I'm being a little artistic and giving artistic license and putting a whole bunch of leaves. I mean, really, I want a lot of leaves up here and I want a lot of leaves on the ground. And in nature, it's kind of one or the other. I mean, you can have a lot of leaves in the ground, but then you wouldn't have that many in your tree. And, you know, I mean, there is that middle ground that'll happen for like a day or two when there's still leaves everywhere. But I'm just going to go ahead and do artistic license. And, you know, really think about this as a fun therapeutic time. Like, don't stress out with your little dots. Just let them happen. Let it be what it is. Oftentimes throughout the day, we're always trying to control every little thing that we do, everything we say. We're always, you know, just let this happen. You know, let the dots be the dots. As long as you're just tapping and you're not really swooshing, don't worry about it. Let them have, each little leaf have its own little personality. Now I'm going to take a quick moment, and I'm also going to do the sides of my canvas. I do feel that when I paint the sides of my canvas, the painting feels a little bit more complete. And when I do the sides of the canvas, it wraps around the image. And with the type of canvas that I'm using, I'm not going to need to frame this. I mean, I could if I wanted to, but it's already going to be able to be hangable on the wall. It's very lightweight, and yeah, it works. So by painting the sides, it almost, in a way, kind of sort of gives it a framey sort of look. Now, if you didn't want to paint the sides, an option of what you could do is that you could just paint and do your painting, and then at the end you could pick a color and then just paint that around the edges, and that could give it a nice border. I've done that a couple times. You could use a sponge to do it, which is a cool fadey look for like Halloween type paintings. You could use your brush. I would recommend, if you do that though, to probably use some tape, so that way you can tape it off and really get that line straight, because if the line's not straight, it's a little crooked, your painting will look a little bit more homemade, which is totally cool. I mean, you know, that's what it's here. This is why I paint. If I wanted a photograph, I'd have a photograph, but that's not what I'm doing here. I'm painting. I want it to look like a painting. I want there to be little flaws and little mistakes going on and fun little things for the eyes to look at. I don't know if you know this, but I have a little thing that I do that helps me to calm my monkey mind and my stress and anxiety. When I'm painting, I have made up this world, and it's the world of Nog. Nog is directly translated from Gaelic into nice. So it's the world of nice. So when I'm painting and I make little boo-boos, I call them happy, exciting, awesome boo-boos, because I meant to do that. Even though really I didn't, okay, I'm going with it. Just let it happen. And then I have these cool, awesome mistakes. And some of my best paintings have been happy accidents. I have had some good ones that are like, I kind of have a feeling that Mona Lisa's smile was a happy accident. And he just saw it and it happened and he loved it and he went with it. And that's why she has the smile she has. Leonardo da Vinci was painting her for 4 years, and he never publicly declared her finished. She was found in his room when he died. He was still working on her. He traveled and he took this painting with her, and she's a tiny little painting, but it took him a while. Or, I mean, there's a thought that maybe it was finished and it was just the original owner was not taking it or paying for it, or there was some sort of dispute, and it's not really documented as to what happened with, like, why did he not, because originally he was paid, so I don't know. Maybe there was another one and he gave him that one and he just had another copy, like that was the one that he didn't sell them. Sometimes I do that. When I paint and somebody commissions a painting from me, sometimes I'll paint it a couple of times. Like if I'm painting and then I just don't like it at the end, I mean, obviously these people are paying me a lot of money to do that. So if I don't like it, I don't want to give them a bad painting. So I'll paint it again, which can be stressful because, you know, time is money and everything like that. But if I do quality work, you know, they're going to come back and whatnot. So it'll happen where if somebody, I will paint it like 2, 3, 4 times. And then when I'm actually really happy with my painting, then that's the one I present to the customer. So who knows? Maybe that's what happened with the Mona Lisa painting. That's just an idea. Okay, so I'm going to take a moment and quickly dry what I have before I go on to the next color. I recommend that you do the same thing. As I'm drying my painting, I'm going to be looking at it and seeing things that maybe I want to fix, things I don't like, things I do like. And so this is a good time to just kind of have a little bit of break from painting for a minute. here, I'm going to go ahead and add some red to my painting. So I'm going to do the exact same thing, except for this time I'm doing red, and I'm going to put a little bit of effort into not going over where I've already painted some leaves. And I think at this moment I still want to stick clear of the branches, just so I can have that moment at the end to be able to really do it and have like a pattern. I want a pattern without, it's like chaos. I want random chaos, however, at the same time, some sort of uniformity of a basic idea. So I'm going to go ahead and put a bunch of dots trying to cover up the blue. Now it's not really showing up that well on the camera, and it's very close to the orange and the brown in tone, but trust me, when we do the yellow, it's just going to really work out really well having the different values in there. So we're adding lots of different values, but yet we're still only really using paint that's straight out of the tube. So we're making it really simple for ourselves, but yet it's going to really be dimensional, and it's going to come out really nice. This kind of reminds me of a vibe of like Central Park, a little bit. You know what this actually, yes, I would say Central Park, and there are some really great, beautiful trees at the Botanical Gardens in Manhattan. Beautiful location. If you ever have an opportunity to go, I currently am in Pennsylvania, and the woods here compared to like the New York is no comparison. It's a whole other story. But the gardens, they're cute. I mean, they have quite a bit of land there. It used to be owned by the Rockefellers. It used to be their front and backyard, and they donated it to the city, and it became the Botanical Gardens. And there are some trees there that are insanely huge. I mean, some walnut trees, they have a lot of those. But I mean, they're just, ooh, if you ever have the opportunity to go, I'd strongly, that's total touristy area that's pretty cool. Okay, so I have pretty much like a splash of color for the red on the tree. And now I'm going to do the same thing, and I'm going to do it on the ground. Notice how I'm a little bit more sparse on the tree, and on the ground they're kind of more clustered together. That's on purpose. I'm kind of, by doing this, I'm showing that there are more leaves on the ground than are on the tree, so it's progressed quite a bit throughout the leaves falling. Now right now when I do these dots, I'm trying to do them where there's white. I'm taking care to trying not to cover up the orange. If I accidentally do cover up some of the orange, it's okay. It's not the end of the world. Now I know that this is could be a little tedious. I mean, I'm having a good time hanging out and painting, so I don't find it to be tedious, but the little brush, when you use it, the end result is just going to be so much more better. I mean, I feel like I'm getting better as I paint trees. The more I paint them, the more I like this fall, I actually literally took the time to sit and be a little kid and stare at trees. Like, I totally did. Like when I was in the car and I wasn't driving and going down the freeway, there's lots of pretty trees and just different places around town and noticing them. I strongly recommend that you take a moment, because like we always, yeah, I know what a tree looks like. I got it. But the thing is it's the difference between seeing and looking. You know, like, yeah, okay, I see it, but no, but I see it, you know, and really think about what shades of colors. I mean, even within the red, there's hues. There's a little pink sometimes that happens, like a dark pink, and there's a dark red, and fire engine red, and there's all kinds of different reds going on, and different shades of orange, and leaves are tonal with different colors. So I mean, take a moment, you know, refresh yourself, be actively looking at these things. I find that the more that I do that in real life, the better my paintings become, because I took a moment to get reacquainted with the subject matter versus just kind of thinking about it. Now this is total super impressionism all the way. So what I'm doing here, this style of painting. So like, I'm not trying to make a photo here. I'm trying to okay, so the way that they say that what is impressionism and why does it stand out, it's because the theory goes that it's not what it looks like, it's how you feel that it looks like. I feel that this is what I should be painting right here versus what I'm actually in time and space, and no, well, that branch is really too thick for that one, you know, no. This is more about telling the concept. I'm telling the story that there are these leaves, this is the color, this is where they are, because I mean, yeah, there are a lot of leaves in trees, but right now, I don't know, maybe I'm adding a little too many, you know? Like for the concept, because our eyes are going to fill it in, and yeah, I'm painting all these leaves, but at the same time, my eye is going to fill it in and make me think that there are more leaves because it's so thick and I can't see the grass underneath. Therefore, my brain is going to assume that they're piled up. So maybe I'm painting too many leaves, but that's okay. I'm painting the excitement and the awesomeness that I feel of how when I see the leaves turning and how cool they are. And so that's the story that I'm telling with this painting. So I'm okay with doing a whole bunch of extra leaves. And you know, if you wanted to be different, and you don't have to stick with this color palette, you know, you could, it's like, this is my world of Nog, and this is what it looks like. This is what Central Park in the world of Nog looks like. And so if I wanted to say that my tree had all different kind of random colors, you know, I can do that. That's because that's how it is in my world. And that's what I want you to feel and to do with your paintings. Make it your own. Make it a place that you want to be and hang out in. I mean, would you not want to hang out in this park? I know I would. If I was here, I would totally, thoroughly enjoy hanging out right now in this park. I mean, we could add a little puppy. Wouldn't that be cute? Like maybe right here or something. Like there's a puppy running around. You know, that would be awesome. I recently actually did a class a couple days ago. A lady asked me, can we put a puppy? And I was like, sure. Huh. And then it was hilarious because like she was like a total kind of biker chick personality. Like I could tell that going to a painting class was not on her high priority thing to do, but she followed her friends and came to my class, and she ended up loving it. And so she had kind of a interesting sense of humor, and she made her puppy taking a poop. So she like painted this puppy, and he was really cute. She did a good job, but she did it like he was pooping. And it was so cute. It's because it was so odd and it was so weird. And, you know, I'm the teacher. I'm going with the flow over here. And my main goal was I wanted to make sure that she was happy with what she was doing. And so I was just letting her go. And then in the end, I saw it, you know. Her husband came to pick her up, and between the two of them and how they were socializing, that's how their sense of humor was, and they enjoyed it. And I just got the biggest little thank you card on Facebook. She wrote me the nicest review. So what I'm trying to say is make this painting yours. If you want to add a plane, go add a plane. If you want to add a little birdie, which would be totally cute, right? A little birdie. I think I'm going to make my leaves flutter and kind of like the wind is blowing. I'm going to take a quick moment though, because I do want to start adding some yellow in here. So before I do that, because the yellow is a really warm color, I'm going to go ahead and dry this, because if I add the yellow and this red is not all the way dry, then they're going to kind of mix on the canvas. And when they mix on the canvas, me going over back and forth with the dot many times, I'm going to start getting the color orange. And I've already laid out orange on here. So I'm going to go ahead and dry my painting. And when you are done making all with your red, go ahead and do the same thing. go ahead and add some yellow. And it's gonna pop. It's gonna look so cool. You're gonna love it. Okay. Make sure that when you close when you're done adding paint to your palette, that you close your lid. That way your paint will last longer, won't dry out. Okay, so I got my yellow, and I'm just gonna kind of try, the goal is to cover up as much white as possible. Now, because there are small little areas here, most likely I probably will cover over some of the orange and red areas. That's okay if you do that. Try not to. Otherwise, you're going to be painting for a million hours. So doesn't it, I mean, already I can just see the difference. It's not showing up too well on the camera, but right here with my naked eyes, it's looking pretty cool. I'm glad I chose to use this small brush. It's really working out really lovely. When you're done with your painting, if you'd like to share it with me, I'd love to see how you've done and the colors you've chosen, and I want to see how it goes. Please send me an email, or I'm all over social media, so, you know, send me a picture. Let's see what you'll show everybody. I'm excited to show off my students' work. And this is such a good painting to hang up over Thanksgiving and the holidays. It's a really nice painting. I mean, it really, you could think of it as an October and November painting. I mean, it took a while. Like, I'm in early November right now that I'm doing this class, and you know, our leaves just barely were towards the end of it here. We had a big rainstorm today, and it kind of knocked down everything. I have a lot of trees in my yard. I usually get around between 25 to 30 bags of leaves every year. And then I like to leave a little bit of extra leaves behind to put some carbon back into the grass. But yeah, we have a lot of trees. I love trees. Totally into trees. I bought the house that I bought, a lady from the university. She was a botanist and taught forestry over at the university, and she just made this yard something beautiful, and I've been taking care and adding and maintaining, and I love my yard. I'm pretty into my yard. It's got a whole thing going on. Of course, one thing that I did for myself was I just chose to buy a better lawnmower this year, because my old one was like literally like 20 years old and like super dull, and it was time. And so this year what we did was I put all the leaves on the grass, and then periodically every so often I'd go out there and mow over it. Oh my goodness. Oh, that just mowing over the leaves and just getting the lawnmower to pick up the leaves. That took, I mean, it used to be like, I don't know, like 4 hours for maybe a whole month straight of trying to get all the leaves. I did 3 sessions with the lawnmower, and each session was from start to finish like an hour. Oh my goodness, it just really helped. Of course, you know, when you're lawnmowering over the leaves, I do have some roots growing up here and there, and that was not good with the lawnmower. Had a couple oops. Kill my lawnmower blade, right? So I'm kind of just trying to be sporadic, a little bit of everywhere. And I mean, okay, we could stop, but I don't want to, because I think the painting will look so much cooler if I no longer have any white space between my leaves. Maybe if I paint this again, or you paint it again, one thing that probably could be a cool idea would be to do the whole thing in grass, to paint grass the whole way through, and then sporadic the leaves everywhere. But I really wanted to extra, you know, I wanted to be a little bit much, kind of like the, you know, the scene in Wizard of Oz when they're in the flower field and it's immensely huge and wow. That's what I'm kind of going for here. Whole bunch of wow, extra. Okay, so I'm going to let that be for a minute. And I'm going to come up here in the tree, and I'm going to do the same thing with the tree. However, I'm going to be a little bit more sporadic than I was with the leaves that are on the ground. So they're there, but not as much. You know, I want space between. I don't need to cover up all of the blue over here. Like when I have white at the bottom, I do kind of want to cover up all that white. I am trying to be mindful at this point that I'm not going over the branches. Now I will go over the branches because the more that you overlap things, the more realistic they're going to look. But right now, since I'm not using a whole lot of brain power and I'm just making a lot of dots, I'm just putting dots, and then I'll go back over. Because when I go over the tree, I want to be very strategic with where I'm placing them. So we're looking for chaos, but with some sort of uniformity of the chaos. I do think to make this a little cartoony, I would like to have an even area of yellow, orange, and red leaves. Now, in real life, they're not so even. Some parts of the tree might be a little bit more orangey or yellowy, or maybe even some green in there in real life, you know. But I'm kind of making this even just because I am kind of cartoony a little bit with this painting. I feel that Impressionism is kind of cartoony a little bit. Impressionism should not look like a photograph. I find that Impressionism tends to be the easier of the painting styles. Of course, modernism, it is what it is because you say it is, and that's what, you know, so that can be easy too because you can just stop whenever and be like, yep, there it is. But Impressionism, you kind of have to put some sort of extra effort, you know, effort in there and really make it to be what it is. But Impressionism is a fairly easy style because you're not really trying to make it look like a photo. Don't forget to paint your sides. Okay, this is looking good. So, let's see. Now I'm going to take a moment, or you know what? I'm going to go dry. I'm going to dry what I got going on right now for a quick moment. still see a whole bunch of white that needs attention. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and make a choice here. I'm gonna add a little bit of a really light lime green, just a couple of them, because some of the trees out there, the leaves are yellow and green at the same time, and some of the leaves haven't turned at all. Now I know that I'm taking artistic license because this tree seems to have all the colors. And usually in nature, that's not so much the case. They kind of have 2 or 3, but not really all the different colors. But that's okay. I'm just gonna, just a couple here and there. I'm gonna be very sporadic with the green. It's just gonna be like these leaves haven't really changed yet. I'm liking that. It's really giving some extra little oomph. I'm not going to add too many, just a couple here and there, because I wanted to show that there's more, that it's a little bit later, and the tree has already started turning. They're falling off, so I don't want to add a lot of these, just a little bit. So remember what I said earlier, random chaos, it sort of is the same. So we want some sort of uniformness going on, but yet random. If it helps you, sometimes it's a good idea to turn the painting, see it from a different angle. Helps me a lot when I turn the painting to see things that I might have missed. This is a lot of fun. This is like really good mental awareness therapy over here. Being present in the moment and just not dealing with the stresses of the world. Because no matter how you paint your painting, there is no wrong answer. The wrong answer would be stress and anxiety over painting. If you're stressed and anxiety when you're painting, you're doing it wrong. Just let it be. Get out of your monkey mind. Stop telling yourself that you suck as an artist, because you don't. Painting is something that can be learned. You're not born with this talent. So don't get down on yourself. I'm going to add just a couple, not a lot. I'm going to try to add them to cover up the white areas. And so what this is going to do, with me saying I'm putting these bright greens down on the ground, is what it's saying is that there was a big storm or something happened, and it caused some of the leaves that weren't fully changed yet to fall off the tree. That there was a little bit of weather that had happened. It also is almost as if some of the grass is kind of poking through. It's kind of, I think, the look I'm getting there actually by adding the green down here, is that the grass is still poking through. So I'm going to just take a moment. There's not a whole lot really to say at this point. It's kind of is what it is for the tree. So I'm going to take a moment and I'm going to be quiet, and I'm just going to have a moment of silence. And the whole purpose is I'm going to meditate. I'm going to pray. I'm going to have some quiet time. and just, you know, think about things and take a kind of a mental awareness break from the world. I'm going to pray and have a good time and just let things be, kind of like giving myself a recess. So if you would like to, go ahead and meditate with me. Do a moment of silence, pray, do something that, you know, makes you feel good. Maybe if you're hanging out with some loved ones, have a good time, have the party, you know, be social. Or, you know, turn on some music and hang out and have a good time. Remember, the only time that you're going to fail is if you are doing this and you're absolutely miserable doing it. Then you fail. So don't be miserable. Be happy. Be happy that you're creating this awesome, beautiful painting that I know somebody's going to love. Don't be hard on yourself and tell yourself that you're a bad artist, because you're not. Okay, so let's let our meditation begin. I'm going to take a quick moment, and I'm going to be very sporadic with my movements, but I am going to take my colors that I have and I'm going to fill in some areas of my branches that are not quite pretty. And I'm going to kind of make the leaves more 3D with how they are, so that they overlap on the bark. I'm not going to cover up all of the bark, just a little bit here and there. I recommend that you do the same thing. take a quick moment and make the leaves look like they are kind of falling to the ground. So random spots here and there, so like they're falling. I'm going to take a quick moment and dry what I have because I'm going to do a layer of yellow. So continue doing the green, the red, the yellow, back and forth until you've covered up all of the white area on the painting. And there you have it. I think I'm going to go ahead and declare this painting done. I'm really happy with my painting. I hope you're happy with your painting. Yeah, this is a good painting. This is a good one for Thanksgiving, for fall. Yeah, it's really cute. I love Impressionism. It's so much fun. If you would like, I would love to see how your painting turned out. So please send me an email or maybe like share it with me on social media. I'm like all over, like on Facebook and Instagram and all of them. So please, yeah, send me a message. I want to see how your painting turned out. I'm really excited. And totally, I'll see you on the next painting class. We'll have a lot of fun.